Southampton, Leeds, Leicester all fell out of the bottom of the trapdoor at the end of this campaign and now face the reality of being in a lower budget, lower paying, less attractive championship where they might need to retool they're definitely going to need to retool their squad and probably also accommodate some of their bigger players moving on. Now, the resulting loss of prestige, revenue will make it very difficult for these clubs to hold on to some of their brighter stars. And some stars will consider themselves too good to drop down a level. Some will probably stay because they have some sort of an affinity for the club. And I do expect that in all cases. I think there'll be players that stick around. But there'll be some bargains to be had. Because it leaves you in a really good position knowing that the clubs can't really afford to turn down any offers because they're going to have an unhappy player that they desperately need to get rid of and probably reinvest that money into players that actually want to be there. And couple that with the fact that they are no longer seen as any sort of an attractive prospect where the player is probably going to want to leave. There's bargains to be had. And when you're dealing with all of that reduced sort of income, you can't really sit on an asset. So invariably, you do see these players getting sold on. And there's a lot of players that United should be looking at. I'm going to go through 5 that I think would probably be the ones that should move on. And whether or not they're the right fit for Manchester United, because there are potentially some concerns with some of them. Now, the first one I think that many people are going to look at is James Maddison. 26 years of age, very much an attacking central midfielder, occasionally played on the right-hand side, and pretty versatile player. You know what he's about. He's one of the most creative players in the Premier League, despite being in a shite team. Very technical, excellent skill set, deadly from set pieces, two-footed, and a very, very, very top ball carrier. Now, that versatility might see him transformed into a deeper position, which might extend the range and the desirability for a player of his calibre. Or he might just slot straight in as a number 10 or an attacking midfielder in any of the teams that he finds himself linked with. Has enough personality and aura, I think, not to be overawed at a big club. His performances did dip towards the end of the season, but I don't think that's going to stop anyone looking at him, nor should it. I think the upcoming transfer window, he'll be one of the first that moves. He had 10 goals and 9 assists this season, and he's got 41 goal contributions across the last 2 league campaigns, not to be sniffed at in the slightest. And like I said, at 26 years of age, 1 year remaining on his contract, he is getting sold this summer. There's no two ways around it. Many Premier League teams are going to look to bring in James Maddison because he's about to enter his prime. The only question with Manchester United is, does he offer enough to be played alongside a Bruno? Because there's one thing taking a player that was on his way down to the Championship, and there's another asking him to maybe play alongside and be moved out of position to accommodate somebody else. Now, what it might give you is options. We've seen Bruno tried a little bit deeper at times this season. If United don't find quite the right box-to-box player, maybe we've already got him on the books. And maybe a bit more of a silky number 10 ahead of Bruno and a Casemiro might actually be something that would be quite effective for United. Because out of the two, I could see Bruno more capably adapting to playing as a number 8 as I could Maddison. But actually, the prospect of Bruno, Maddison alongside a Casemiro, or even, you could see Bruno moved over to the right-hand side on a more permanent basis, or maybe even Maddison, where we know he's played before, moved out onto that sort of side. With the Euros on the horizon, and Maddison hoping to have any sort of hope of playing for England on a regular basis, although he's probably got far too much sauce for Gareth Southgate for that to happen, I think it's nailed on he's going to want to stay in the Premier League, and I think he'll have suitors. Whether or not United is the ideal one out of those, I think he'd probably be going for so cheap that if it's 60 million for Mount, I think he'll probably be looking at half as much for James Maddison. And in that case, there's no question which one you would go for, in my opinion. Number 2, and this is a player that a lot of you guys have been really, really hot on, and for good reasons, good player. And that is Romeo Lavia, 19 years of age, Southampton. He plays as a 6. He's brilliant at receiving the ball under pressure, and he has it all. It's whereabouts is the quality, because it isn't world class just yet. He's so young. People project and go, "Well, but look how good he will be." He's pretty good right now, I don't know if he comes in and is the main guy for Manchester United right now, but in terms of adding a little bit of depth and obvious talent to the squad, I think you could do that, and I think he'd be fine. He's got dribbling, he is press resistant, he can pass the ball, break lines, he's got good tackling, good anticipation, good awareness, he's physical. I think he's a really good player, and it's easy to get carried away projecting what this guy's potential could be, because it genuinely could be the very, very top. And at 19, he's just not there yet. And he's got fantastic footwork, he can dribble his way out of trouble, and he can play short passes in the build-up and helps. You can see him playing in a top team because of that sort of ball retention that he's got. He's 19. He's got so much to mature as a player. Even though he's got very, very good awareness right now, I think he's got that ability to cut passes out because he reads the game really well. He's athletic, covers a lot of the ground as a single pivot six. It's very easy to see why this guy is going to be so high up on people's list for people that have been relegated. And he is a good passer of the ball. He ranks very high for retention in the high 90% in short, medium pass types, which is very impressive in a team that got relegated. And when you're building up, especially if you have a build-up with a centre-half split, Lavia drops into the space to receive it directly from the keeper. We don't have that. We don't have that player doing that. Casemiro does it sometimes, but it's not his go-to move. Very, very comfortable in those areas. Very, very comfortable receiving. Uses his body fantastically well. Has got feints. Uses his shoulder. Gets his arse in the way. Really clever, mature movements for someone like such a young age. And like I said, very, very difficult to keep a lid on the excitement because he's a real player. He's a certainty to move, I think. It's where he ends up. And again, is United the right move for him? I think he could be a massive asset to United. He might be able to find a place where he can play Premier League football and play 38 games a season. I don't think that's at United next season. So it's whether or not he's happy to come and learn the ropes a little bit and be drip-fed into the team before maybe taking over in a year or two. Because I don't think he'd be ready to do that next season. But he'd be a hell of an asset for us to add in there and actually give Casemiro a couple of nights off and let this kid shine somewhat. Wouldn't cost too much. And absolutely is on the list for that reason. And then you got Youri Tielemans. Not just a player that's been relegated, but someone that's going to be free. So there is no chance whatsoever he's staying with Leicester next season. He is out of there. And unfortunately, it feels like he checked out already. Again, another one, 26 years of age, should just be coming into his prime. Was once considered one of the best young players in the world when he arrived at Monaco in 2017. The performances that he put in France saw his stock absolutely plummet, and he eventually joined Leicester in 2019 as a bit of a career saver. Since then, he's been quite divisive. Popular because he was seen as a bit of a prize commodity in a team that was maybe a little bit beneath someone of his stature. But at 26 years of age, he had a couple of decent run-outs at Leicester. And I would suggest last season, not the season just gone, but last season, a player that could have moved and could have gone to a very well-respected club in doing so. This year, I don't know if it's because he's had his eye on moving or for whatever reason it is, he's not been at the races this year at all. And because he's not been at the races, I think his stock has plummeted. If this was 12 months ago and you're like, hang on, I can pick this guy up on a free, people would have ripped your arm off to bring in Youri Tielemans. This year, there is hesitation. Now, for me, he is the sort of player Manchester United like. We do not have a true box-to-box midfielder with the skill set that Tielemans has got. And he's technically gifted. He can play probably 3 or 4 different roles in a midfield. But box-to-box is what he is, and box-to-box is what I think United really lack. With a big footballing IQ. He's a really, really solid player. I just don't know why he's just had the season that he's had. Now, I see him as a little bit of a gamble because of the way his season has gone this year. But when you factor in the fact that he's on a free transfer, it probably balances out the gamble that you might have had with him. So he's on the list for a good reason. Number 4 on the list is another one from Southampton, and it's a young centre-half, bella-kotchap. Now, I think Harry Maguire goes. And I think it would be foolish to just have the one backup. You're probably going to need a backup that's a little bit younger. And you might have Mengi, you might have Deshaun Bernard. I don't know what's going on with either of those two. They both have shown promise out on loan. And then what's going on since? So bringing in someone from a relegated side to come in and learn off Martinez and Varane might be a really good option for Manchester United. Now, he is a front foot defender. His first instinct is to press up, engage, very much in that sort of Nemanja Vidic kind of mould where he's going to steam in there and smash somebody. And he reacts to developing situations really quickly. He's very good at stepping up to intercept passes. He pressures a receiver's touch really well. He disrupts what's going on with them. You couldn't call him a passive defender for sure. He's got a really good change of pace, makes him difficult to get in behind. I think he'd be fine playing 1v1 on the halfway line. Difficult to get the better of when they go wide. And he seems to overwhelm attackers when it comes to physical duels. He can get in ahead of them rather than sitting off and waiting to see what they do. He just get in there, intercepts it. He wraps one of his legs around them, disrupts the touch, hulks over them, powers into headers. Really, really solid potential out of him. And even though he's aggressive with it, he's remarkably clean with it. Doesn't pick up loads of fouls, knows how to blend anticipation and athleticism without going into recklessness, which is huge, I think. So there's certainly a player to keep an eye on here. And if Harry Maguire does go, I think he comes in significantly cheaper than Harry Maguire would go for, leading the club with a net win, where you've probably got a player that's more suited to the game we're trying to play. And you've made money on that upgrade as well. So that'd be fantastic. Very well composed, very well poised. He's big, he's agile, and I think he's got it all. I think in a proactive team, he could be brilliant. And the fact that he's just been relegated again, do you know what? Get him. Just get him. I don't think it would cost a lot at all. And at 21 years of age, loads of room for him to grow into whatever he becomes next. Right, last one then, Willy Gnonto. So we looked at Willy Gnonto prior to him going to Leeds. We knew it was all about exciting, explosive player. He attracted interest from clubs all across Europe. A little bit of a surprise that he signed for Leeds. Was a little bit of a threat against us for Leeds as well. And he's still just 19. His performances with Leeds have helped keep his spot in the Italian side, having made his debut last summer. And because he's got such a high defensive work rate and really good dribbling abilities, there's going to be so many teams that are after him as well. He got 8 goal contributions for Leeds. That was 4 goals, 4 assists, and at just 19, that's pretty good. There's probably a lot more to come out of that. He's probably a little bit too good for Leeds as a championship side. My only drawback with him is you've already got Garnacho playing off the left. Marcus plays off the left. Where does he fit in? That's my only drawback with him at all. He has big periods where he can be one of the most exciting players. He's stocky, he's powerful, he's really good at dribbling, he's got a low centre of gravity, absolutely ridiculous acceleration. He was statistically one of the best pressing forwards in the league as well. Now, this is one where the agent has already been talking. He said he expects him to stay at Leeds. He's got a contract through the summer of 2027. And he might stay there and absolutely dominate the championship next year. But he's certainly one that you think you've got to go and look at, I think you've got to go look at. It's whether or not he fits in with what United are trying to do. I think if United could get 3 or 4 out of that 5, you'd get them pretty cheap, and you've certainly added to the potency of Manchester United. It's whether or not you've added to the first 11, because that's how you improve a team. And I think that's up for debate, depending on what happens with Bruno Fernandes and how you move him around. But let me know your thoughts on those 5 players in the comments below. Would you sign any of them? Would you leave any of them? Let me know. See you in the next one. Hey, thank you for watching the video. If you are new around these parts, then don't forget to subscribe. My channel is proudly supported by my community on Patreon. If you'd like to get a little bit of extra content, a Discord group, meetups, 5-a-side games, weekly podcasts, behind the scenes, and even an occasional bit of transfer news as and when I get it, then for the price of a pint, you can show your appreciation for the content that we make and get some goodies for doing so as well. Check the link in the description or click the button right here. You'll also find all of my socials here too if you want to follow me on any of those platforms. Nice one.